right, hello everybody. My name is Amie Fisher, and I am so happy to be here with you today. I am a personal and professional life coach. My purpose today is to introduce you to new ways of thinking to maximize your potential. So, what's in this for you? Success. I'm also grateful to be a part of EmployeeZ's kickoff and to partner with this outstanding platform as we together seek to better the lives of Gen Zs everywhere, just like you. I want to invite you today to make a deal with me, but more on that in just a minute. First, I want you to know that I myself am a mom of 3 Gen Z children, and I absolutely disagree with some of the broader generalizations that have been made by some of today's experts about your generation. For example, this is what one of the premier experts in the field says about Gen Z. Dr. Twenge, in her book, iGens, writes, iGeners are scared, maybe even terrified, growing up slowly, raised to value safety, and frightened by the implications of income inequality. They have come to adolescence at a time when their primary social activity is staring at a small rectangular screen that can like them or reject them. The devices they hold in their hands have both extended their childhoods and isolated them from true human interaction. As a result, they are both the physically safest generation and the most mentally fragile. But I know that that is not all that there is to you. You are the most racially and ethnically diverse generation our country has ever known. You are also on track to be the most well-educated generation in our nation's existence today. You are technically savvy, and your use of technology is literally reshaping the world as we know it today. Your influence on our world right now cannot be overstated. You have a lot to build on and the gifts necessary to make your dreams into reality with a little professional coaching, and that's where I want to come in. Secondly, I want you to know that I've helped hundreds of young adults learn to, well, adult. So I'm excited to be here with you. Now, how can you as a Gen Z dial down your personal anxiety so that you can see other ways to address today's opportunities or problems? Recognize that maybe the problems also represent opportunities. And how can we better deal with those anxiety-inducing moments, including unexpected events, new situations, unwanted change, feeling insecure or unsure of yourself, and feeling like you don't have the goods, even though you do? So let's explore new ways of thinking to maximize your potential, which leads us to making a deal. Making this deal will help you in your daily life and in your personal relationships. It will also enable you to step forward into your next adventure and face the necessary risk, that doorway to both learning and success. So let's make a deal, and deal is an acronym. One sec. D stands for discard the old. I want you to give up some of the old toxic ways of thinking about yourself and what you're experiencing in life. I know that that's easier said than done, but I can help you if you let me. E is embrace the new. There is some risk in this as you have to embrace the unknown. But what if you were sure that the unknown was positive? A stands for anticipate the good. That's right, the good, which means we stop waiting for the worst case scenarios to play out in our lives. And L stands for leverage new skills and attitudes to reach your goals to maximize your potential. We'll take these points one by one, exploring how this deal can better your life. Okay, number 1, discard the old. When I speak of discarding the old, I mean laying down the old ways of thinking and seeing the world. This includes old ways of seeing ourselves, and it includes the old ways of relating to ourselves. Think of it like this. If there was a soundtrack that played in your mind 24 hours a day that represents your life, what would you be listening to? What genre best represents that soundtrack? How do you speak to yourself? Is it yelling, loud, heavy metal? Nothing wrong with that. My firstborn, or my little one, used to call it heavy chains, but it also sounds a little chaotic, right? I once had a client tell me that all she heard was the negative. It was like a track playing on repeat, constantly reminding her that she just wasn't enough, that she would never stack up, essentially that she would never win at life, love, accomplish any of her goals personally or in business. one, I hate that for her. So we start talking and I'm like, whose voice are you hearing? What is this? And for her, a lot of the times it was her mother's voice. And I think some of us do that when we're a little older. You hear your mom say, are you going to wear that today? Um, and and it turned into her own voice, just the doubt and the pressure. And I said, okay, let's go back to that. Let's find out where that first started. And it did start with, her mother was helping to push her and encourage her and had a plan for her life. And she happened to go a completely different direction. And in her mind, that was letting her mom down and being a failure. She veered off course a little bit. And so when I talked about what she hears now, it was always just so loud and negative and almost demeaning. And I said, did your mom speak to you that way? Is this like the reality? No. Well, what was your mom doing? Well, she was trying to encourage me to make myself a better person. Okay, well then now it's so negative. Let's reframe that. If your mom is telling you that, look at how far you've come, right? So when you hear things coming through, like, oh, we almost say it's like a filter, and some people have no filter, and some people are very, very nice the way they phrase things. I know for myself, I can come into a room and ask my husband, hey, I'm ready to go. Are you ready to go? And yes, you look nice. Nice? What do you mean nice? You mean like wonderful, fabulous? You don't like this outfit? Oh, you don't like me wearing black anymore? What is that? Whoa, where did that even come from? That was like a few filters down in just the wrong direction, right? And I think sometimes we do that with past voices, a mom, a parent, a coach, a teacher, somebody that maybe was trying to encourage us, but maybe we didn't take criticism very well. Who knows what that is? But she was hearing this and it was only negative. So we talked about reframing that and what her mom really wanted for her. We also talked about, let's make a list of your accomplishments since then. This is like 10 years later, how much she's grown. She didn't do what her mom had originally wanted, but she got back in school. She was on track. She'd moved across the country, taken on a new adventure and started her career and was doing really well for herself. She needed to be proud of that. And I think sometimes you just need to remember those things. So I had her make a list. So reframing that voice, making a list to realize how far that you really come, and then just stopping that. When you hear something negative coming in your head, you can take a second and go, wait a minute. That's not what that is. This is where I am now. And again, just learn from it and move forward. I feel like we can all learn from anything, right? So we'll just keep moving forward. I've done that with her, and I've also done it with other types of people. I've known and worked with some alpha males who, though are extremely successful professionally, still carry a ruckload of insecurities that threaten their optimum performance. When working with soldiers, these insecurities can have life-threatening consequences. I've talked to men that are not afraid to jump out of helicopters or airplanes. They're the guys that run into the firefight, and yet one meeting gone wrong or facing a board of people, of their peers asking questions, and they start to panic. And one wrong word, and it's, what am I even doing here? Who would listen to me anyway? What kind of leader am I? And I think, whoa, where did that come from? When you look at the kind of person you are and the things that you've accomplished, again, how are you letting yourself only hear those negative things? So the first, a young college student, the second, a military soldier that has served in special operations, and they both had the same problem. They were allowing the old ways of thinking to dictate future possibilities. Old ways of thinking can paralyze us, distort our vision. So we have to be willing to discard the old. But that isn't enough. We must also embrace the new, which brings us to number 2. Look, there is a certain chaos inherent with any transition, and it's complex because you're dealing with a lot of variables that are outside of our control. If I could take a poll right now and ask you, what are some things that would just throw off your day, throw you off for the week? It could be a flat tire, getting a ticket, missing a meeting, having your boss get on to you for something crazy, missing a class, failing a test, right? If there's some control freakiness in your life, this part might make you twitch a little. But in order to dial down the anxiety, we first need to start figuring out the difference between what's in our control and what is not in our control. Often our anxiety is rooted in our insistence in trying to control people or circumstances. The Stoics, particularly the philosopher Epictetus, talked about one's circle of control. My circle of control includes me, and my perception, my attitude, my beliefs, my thoughts, the words that come out of my mouth. That's it, me. Everything else is outside of my circle of control, like my husband and his job, whether he's gone this week or home, whether my kids are doing their own thing now, they're older. I mean, I like to think that I'm still influencing them and hopefully in a good way, but I have no control over what they're doing. Other spouses and whether or not I get invited to their latest coffee, nothing I can have any control over at all. And circumstances. If I park my truck at Target, I mean, who doesn't love a quick Target run? And I come outside and find someone has rear-ended my husband's Toyota 4Runner. Do I control that? I don't. And since I don't control it and I can't change those circumstances, what good does it do if I start throwing a fit in the parking lot, going crazy, jumping up and down and screaming? The truck is still messed up. It's still going to have to get fixed. Yes, it's been a blip in my day, but I don't know if I need that kind of an emotional response. And you've seen these people, they get filmed these days and put online. So, you're out somewhere. I was shopping last week and this little cashier looked so sweet. And a couple went up to her and they started arguing about the prices of the pants. There were two pairs. One was on sale, one wasn't. And he really starts getting upset with why he can't have them both the same price. She handled herself like a champ. I'm not going to lie. She did great. And I felt so bad for her for the moment because the adult, the grown man in the room, was literally throwing a tantrum in the store and throwing down the pants and walking out. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, no, you just look crazy. And when I have situations like that, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to look crazy and I don't want to get filmed and put online later. So back to my truck, I can up my blood pressure, start yelling and make myself have a wreck of a day, which, it will trickle down and end up being a horrific day for everybody else around me. Or I can just take a minute and think, okay, it's happened. Thank goodness it's not a life and death situation. It's not going to ruin all things. It's just something that I have to take care of, which, I get to choose my response. And that's the biggest part that I want you to get is I get to choose my response, and understanding this helps to self-regulate and dial down that anxiety and stress. So the first step, take a deep breath, ask yourself, what control do I have over any of this? And if I get to formulate my response, then I get to respond like a nice, normal person and just say, okay, let's just learn from this. Maybe I'll meet a great mechanic at this place where I live. We'll move forward. This is called a growth mindset. It gets tossed around a lot lately, but you hear a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And fixed is just keep doing the things that you do and repeat those situations over again. When you're growing, you don't mind pushing yourself and being challenged and realize this challenge can be something good for me to overcome, and I can use it in the future for myself. Now that I've embraced and faced something in my past, now I can use that for my good later, right? So if we take that minute to form the response rather than react, we embrace the new, we lower the reactivity, and it's just a more efficient and effective way to live, right? And it's also more fun. None of us want to be those people that are reacting all the time and living crisis to crisis. You know those people? Like you might have a roommate that's, I need $5. I ran out of gas. It's so-and-so's fault. Our electricity is about to be turned off. It's just like a frantic way of life. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, the difference there. Look, if we can change the way that we think, we can change the way we live. So much of life is perception. So if you choose to apply the negative value to what you've been experiencing, instead of seeing opportunities behind the challenges, you will limit your potential and your future happiness. It's not rocket science, but it is work. So let's keep moving. We see that we need to discard the old and embrace the new. This is our D and our E. The A stands for anticipate the good. Anxiety often arises because we anticipate all that might go wrong. Now, whatever it is, still may go wrong. But we usually have no control over these things. We just learned that we get to control our response. So why anticipate all that might go wrong when we can just as easily anticipate what might go right? I know it's counterintuitive sounding. To really dial down the anxiety in your life, though, you need to focus on you and your own functioning. So we stop focusing around everything else that takes place around us, especially those outside of our circle of control, and we focus on us. One of the examples that I would use for us being derailed, even or unexpected events this year, was moving. We are a military family. We get orders every couple of years. You don't have to think about it. You get a piece of paper. It says, this is where you're going. This is when you show up. We got a few of those this time, and we plan our moves. So we do what is called Diddy moves, right? It's called do-it-yourself moves, where I plan all the things. Now, we've moved at least 12 or 13 times in the last 16 years. You would think I have it down like a science. And while I have it down, I don't. You know why? Because something always goes wrong. And it doesn't matter how well I plan for it, something is going to happen. And it's a different place, it's a different truck, it's a different system. Something is new. Now, what I can tell you is that years ago, I used to try to plan for all the things that would go wrong. And it was stressful, and I would be running around like a crazy person. And that's when I would be focused on all the wrong things. And I call that overfunctioning. When I'm overfunctioning, it's loud. I repeat myself. I miss deadlines. I forget what I've packed already. I maybe forgot to call the truck. I start snapping at my kids. I go into a brain freeze. I buy the same things over and over again. That's a whole different story. And every once in a while, I just have to stop and realize, oh no, slow down. Maybe take a minute for some self-care. Make myself a list again, start checking off the things that I've done right? And maybe give myself a break. All I have learned how to move forward with, I've planned the move as well as I can, knowing that something is still going to go wrong. And that's the only thing I can do. So I make the plan. I even make a little backup plan. And I tell my family, hey, this is going to be an adventure no matter what happens. And we're going to roll with it because we are prepared. And it's fine. And that changes the whole feeling of a move. Because I've just planned the best I can. And the rest, you know what, whatever, I'm going to deal with it. So what difference does any of that make for you? Well, if you have a family, a friend group, a job that you care about, it makes all the difference in the world because that system is made up of those many relationships. Anxiety is like a toxic gas in the air. Your words and your actions function like a thermostat in your home, in the workplace. You can dial it up or you can dial it down. That's the power of your presence. So never underestimate your place in the system. By focusing on you, your development, your functioning, you cease to be the reactor, which means you are able to stay in control. There is so much that we can be anxious about, but we don't have to be anxious. This is a choice. Anxiety is a response. But just like when I said I plan my move, I plan everything I can, and I'm confident in that, confidence is also a response. You see, both are responses. And that's what I want to focus on. I don't want to be focused on the anxiety and the bad and all the anxiousness that can go on. I want to be focused on, I did the best that I could, and now I'm ready to move forward. That moves us into number 4, leveraging new skills and attitudes to reach your goals and maximize your potential. What are some new skills and attitudes you can adopt to ensure you stay on a winning path? First of all, if it's a skill like communicating, it can be learned. So no matter where you are on the spectrum of the skills needed to meet your goals, you can learn these skills. Second, attitudes, positive or negative, are choices. So however you envision your life, where you want to be 5 years from now, whatever attitude you need to become that can be chosen. Both are skills and attitudes that are adoptable. This puts you in the seat of power, and you can do that. But the right skill set with the wrong attitude set will sabotage you. Skills and attitudes have to work together, or they're going to work against one another. And again, this is a choice. I want to speak to you about one particular skill, and that's called emotional intelligence, or EQ. It's being intelligent about emotions. No one is born with high EQ. EQ is developed. That's why they call it, or I call it, a skill. Daniel Goleman, in his book, Primal Leadership, talks about self-awareness and social awareness. You can think of these like 2 marble pillars. Under the self-awareness pillar is self-regulation, self-management. This is you knowing you and managing your emotions. If you're given to anxiety, how do you manage your anxiety? Is your management healthy? Is it effective? If not, let's talk. Under the social awareness pillar is the relationship management. This is your understanding of where you are socially and having the intelligence necessary to manage those that are in the same space with you. Classroom, a workplace, the home. These are the pillars that build a personal and professional foundation upon. Excuse me. Let me give you a couple of quick examples of what right does not look like. Okay, so I'm a Gen Xer. Please don't hold that against me. But in The Office, please tell me you've watched The Office. Michael Scott, played by Steve Carell. I know some people can say it's overrated, but I'm telling you, it's a classic. If you don't do anything else today, please jump into the second season, even if you want to, just for the comedic relief value, because you can plug and play some of the characters from this show into your life, supervisors and people that you work with. And honestly, it's a good laugh at the end of a rough day. And Michael Scott provides a brilliant example of a leader who is neither self-aware, socially aware, anything. He thinks he's one thing while everybody else thinks something else. I mean, he is the guy that's holding the World Best Boss mug that he bought for himself, while everybody that works for him thinks he's just a little crazy or a big child. And it's hilarious. And I've actually worked with people like this before. I've had a boss where he and his brother were the managers, and they wanted to be the party guys. They wanted to be part of the crowd. And, you know, we were a restaurant crew back then, and it's a different lifestyle, but still they're trying to date the coworkers. They wouldn't be consistent with the schedule. They'd play favorites. And, you know, it just turns into chaos, right? Because the ones that are actually there just to work hard and do their jobs, we get tired of that, fed up, and we're done. And the people that they were playing favorites with learn that they can take advantage of that. And so they don't show up and do the job half the time. Not right example, not a good example of a leader or aware of anything. I also, in a different context, I've worked with people as a military spouse. We have things to go to and events and coffees, and we try to volunteer our time, and you meet some really great people along the way. And I had one spouse who I know her heart was in it. She wanted to meet people. She wanted to get out there and make a good impression, but she would make a beeline to the highest ranking person's spouse in the room, almost corner them and take up a conversation for like an hour. And like, I love this person. Again, I know that they are just trying to get out there and be friendly, but she wasn't realizing how it came across and how it looked to others when every time she went to a specific person and would hog them in a conversation. So again, probably not very socially aware, right? Now, I've also seen an example of this done really, really well. We had a leader, and again, a spouse at a very big post, and it was a pretty big responsibility. And her focus was training, which I loved. She had, you know, a military intelligence background. I mean, all these things. And her thing was speaking into our lives, training us, helping us get ready for what we needed in the future. And it was always, always good content. Now, on the other side, the social side, she was not that person. She was not going to plan a coffee or do the events that was a little bit more for fun. It wasn't in her wheelhouse. She wasn't comfortable with it. And she just came out and said that. And so what she did was pass that on to number two. So instead of saying, I'm going to just wing it or try to make it work, and instead of doing that and not doing it well, she passed it off to the person that she knew really had a heart for it. I had so much respect for that. Like, as a leader, to be able to say, I'm going to tell you guys, this is what I'm passionate about. This is what I'm not. So somebody help me and let's do this together. It was great. We got to see the teamwork of two people that really cared about our group and prepared us and poured into us in both ways. And it was just a really great picture of just being socially aware, self-aware enough to know that how to make it work. Like, if you don't have all the answers, how do you team up with that? And that person's also become a great mentor in my life and several other people's lives. I mean, she always had a saying that you could come and get in her chair when you need to hear from her or take a few minutes of her time. And I love that. So I'm also going to spin off here and tell you that I am a big believer in mentoring. I think that you need somebody in your corner that you can call, text, ask what they think, somebody that will tell you maybe the truth, even if it's a hard truth that you don't want to hear. I believe that we should be mentored by somebody, and I believe that we should be mentoring someone. And I say that knowing that I'm speaking to a younger crowd now, but I think it's important to know that you guys have great things to share. So it doesn't matter how old you are, you have wisdom, you've had experiences, and you can pass that on to other people. Now that I'm technically a seasoned spouse, I have a group of women that will, just a few, that will call me once in a while and ask me what they think. And I know I have been compared to Edna Mode. Anybody remember her, the little person, the short lady on the Incredibles, and somebody's talking to her and she starts crying and she starts whacking her with a paper towel, like, remember who you are. I do tend to do that. If you call me for encouragement and you're one of my friends in my circle, I'm going to be like, you've got this, let's go. But you know what? They still call me and ask me for thoughts. And I love that. And I love being there for them. And again, I'm telling you that even at your age, you can do that. One of my favorite examples of that is my nephew, Nate. He is 23 years old. He lives in Dallas, Texas. He is a real estate agent. And I remember talking to him a few years ago. in the front yard before we left town. And he said, Amie, I'm thinking about changing my path. I want to stop where I am in college and move and just switch to a real estate teaching thing. And I was like, wow. And he said, I know that not everybody in the family is going to be happy with that. And I was like, that doesn't matter. This is you. You tell me one thing, because I know that you're a great kid and I know that you've got the gifts to make this work. Do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody that you've already spoken to that's going to help you through this process? That's all I want to know. Who are you looking up to that can guide you? And he said, yes, I've actually reached out to somebody and they're going to take me under their wing and teach me the things. And I was like, well, then I'm on board. I know that you can do this. Now, I don't get to claim anything else for him because he's done it all himself, but I did get to encourage him on that front end. And I was so happy to hear that he had a mentor, and that guy is crushing it. And like I said, 23 years old, I think he's broken records for sales, and he did not hesitate for a second, but he jumped back in and took advantage of his momentum and started mentoring others as well. Because really, you guys are going to hear it better from somebody your own age. I think he hosts a podcast now. He's created a group of coaching to teach them how he's doing his sales, all the techniques. And I love that for him. So he was mentored and now he's mentoring somebody else. And I think we all need to be doing that. We can all build up our emotional intelligence, but part of that mentoring piece is accepting the help. And that part never seems to get easier, I don't think, does it? Especially Gen Z right now. I have seen several times in working with some Gen Z people, especially this last few years, a fear of asking for help. And I have not quite figured out why. We've already talked about how smart you guys are, how you know where to find the answers, technically savvy, but just a simple asking somebody in person for help, I don't know. In fact, somebody I talked to recently had a university student. They had to pack up and move to their next spot, got everything packed except for their computer. And I don't know if this person was a gamer or a programmer, but they had to set up. So a computer, a couple of different monitors, and they weren't sure how to pack it up to ship it to themselves. So they left it behind. I don't understand. Like, would you rather buy all new things instead of just asking somebody down the hall, like, hey, can you help me box this up? What do I do with this? I'm not sure where that came from. And so I just thought, why would you do that to yourself? And I'll throw my own daughter under the bus, my firstborn. She is in the Coast Guard. She had gone to a special school for a couple of months, living in the barracks, and had made it very homey for herself, and dishes, towels, linens, the whole deal. And she gets a call and she's been released and ready to go to her next place. They gave her a very short window of basically, get out of here, you get to go home for a little while. And she was on that. I talked to her later in the evening. She'd cleaned up her room, she'd turned everything in, was taking out the trash, but she had some things left behind that she was just getting tired and couldn't get it done. And she's had an injury, so she was recovering from that as well. And I said, well, what are you doing about it? Nothing, I'm just going to leave it behind with my roommate or their friend, and I'm just going to give it away. Again, I'm talking about an Instapot, dishes, a blender, some nice things. And I was like, what are you doing? You would rather buy all of that again? Mom, I don't want to ask anybody for help. Okay, help me. I don't understand. Some of the people had already gone for the night. She had one friend that had helped earlier, but she knew he was tired and she didn't want to ask him again, didn't want to bother anybody. She would rather just leave that stuff behind and sneak out quietly. I don't know. I don't know if they think that they should have all the answers, if there's a fear of rejection, if they want to look like they have it all together. As a point of growth for me, do me a favor. I just want to challenge you to reach out to someone. Go have a conversation, get more comfortable with that. Maybe ask for directions, even if you don't need them. If you have a neighbor that's cooking something and it smells great, ask for a recipe. Stop by and I have an even better idea. Try to find yourself a mentor. Meeting with successful role models who have already persevered in the face of challenges and overcome obstacles, it can foster resilience and confidence in you. These connections across generations are so important. Look, I'm not afraid to ask you guys for help. Gen Zs, I love it. You have the answers, and if not, you know where to find them. My son handles my tech stuff and helps me with that. If I see somebody that has a cute outfit, I'm like, oh, where did you get this? What podcasters are you listening to right now? Are there any TED Talks I should be watching? I love it. I will ask you guys for help all day long. And you guys are awesome about it because you will point me in the right direction. And the same goes for you guys. I know people in my circle who would be flattered and honored to come alongside you and mentor you. Now, look, we don't have all the answers either, but I can promise you that we've made way more mistakes and we've learned from them, and we would love to share that with you. If you're not sure where to start, I suggest looking around your family, your work, your church, your favorite business, your favorite restaurant. I mean, I try to seek out somebody that's doing it right. Like, that's a working mom. She's got it together. You see a CEO of a company, and whatever it is that you want to be in a few years, and you see yourself and that person looks like they're doing a great job, that's who you make a beeline for, right? And you go talk to them. And it's just a simple conversation or an email or a phone call and just say, hey, listen, I just want you to know I look up to you. I would love to pick your brain. I would love to ask you just a couple of questions. Can I buy you some coffee sometime? It is not hard. That simple. Would you mind if I emailed you once a month and asked you a few questions? Do you have a few minutes to meet with me? The worst they can say is no, right? But they're probably going to be flattered and like, oh, hey. And I've met somebody that did that. We had talked to a guy at our Domino's down the street where we lived one time, and he was sharing his story with us. And basically, he didn't know what he wanted to do with his life. And he walked into this place at the Domino's and he said, hey, how did you own your own franchise? How did you do that? And I guess the guy shared with him and some, and he said, okay, well, that's what I want to do. Can you teach me how you did it? And he did. He started at the ground up and he worked his way up through Domino's to be management and was able to buy his own franchise and started with a conversation, right? So I know that that can be awkward, seeing somebody and walking up to somebody and trying to just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ask them this? But sometimes you just have to get over that and go for it, right? And I'll give you an example of myself. You know that we're a military family. We are Army. About 16 years ago is when we started, and we were new to this military lifestyle in general. There wasn't a lot of military on my side, really clueless. And this is the height of the surge. And I don't know if anybody really remembers that or knows about that much, but you know, they had gone from, especially Army, 9-month and 1-year deployments. Now we've upped them up to 15-month deployments. So we were getting prepared for a long deployment to be away from our spouses. I walk into this meeting and I'm thinking, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I don't know anybody yet. I see some people talking. I see spouses. I see some crying already in the corner. I'm thinking, oh no, I don't want to do that. And I see 2 ladies in the back that look very calm. They have teenagers. They're just chilling out. They're basically like their arms across, nodding. Okay, they know what they're doing. They've been there before. I walked right up to those ladies and said, hi, you don't know me yet. My name is Amie, but you look like you have it together. You look like you've survived a deployment. I am clueless, but I'm with you. I need you to teach me your ways. Okay, I'm sure they thought I was insane. That's fine. They looked at me for a couple of seconds, but they looked at me and were like, okay, you're in. We'll take care of you. And they were amazing. They walked so many of us through this deployment. First Christmas by ourselves, moving a pregnant spouse faster than anybody I have ever seen. They were rock stars and it was life-saving. And they shared their experiences with us, good and bad, and we were able to make it because of them, right? So if you need to find a mentor and you've been told no, and you can't seem to find anybody, reach out to me. We would love to help you with that. Okay, we will find somebody that fits the bill for that. So get a mentor, become a mentor. I also encourage you, those that I work with, anybody, to learn more about your unique personalities. Okay, I have 2 assessments in particular that I use the most. They reveal the positive and the negative. Now, I appreciate that because I'm not one that dwells on the negative of anything, especially about myself. But I do like a heads up, and I like to know where I'm going when I'm stressed. The more you know, the better you can prepare, right? Plus, it helps to reframe a little bit some of those quirks or maybe things that you thought were negative, instead of realizing that's how you're made and we can work with that, right? So some of my old things, people would think I was flighty. I have a lot of interest. I'll sign up for several things and maybe only make it to one. Okay, so I had to learn about how I do have varied interest, a short attention span. I need to watch out for my time management, but those things make me a great encourager, a great cheerleader, if you will. I am all with you. I will pump up and sign up all the way for you. I just may not be there at the end. I will find something else because that's okay. I can work with that. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that you can leverage these skills to work with new people and to work in your everyday life, working with teachers, with coworkers, other people. If you can see where you are on this scale and you can see maybe how they respond differently, it will give you tools to further yourself in your career. Not manipulating it by any means, but working your skills for good. How's that? And I would love to work with that. If anybody wants to deep dive into a class on personality stuff, I am all in for that. All right, lastly, I would love for you to remember that every day is a gift. We are likely to never experience a completely stress-free day. But it's okay. If we can learn to make our stress work for us, that's right. We can make our anxiety work for us, right? And that's it. That's the deal. If interested, I can help you develop a personalized plan to seal the deal. My contact information is probably on the site somewhere. If not, it's Amie Fisher, LC, at basically all the places, and EmployeeZ will have it. I hope that our time today can both encourage you and challenge you on your journey. I would love to hear some feedback. And if I can ever help you with anything now or in the future, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It has been a privilege to share this time with you. Now, discard the old, embrace the new, anticipate the good, and leverage these new skills and attitudes to reach your goals and maximize your potential. Thanks for being here.
We are useful social media for Gen Z. The world is changing faster than ever.
So what?
You have to gain some skills to be successful in the future's world. Don't worry, we are here to support you.